Do you ever walk into a room and immediately feel everyone's eyes judging you, even when nobody is actually looking? You choose your clothes, your words, your entire personality based on what others might think, only to find yourself trapped in a never-ending cycle of stress and anxiety. But what if I told you there's a simple psychological trick to completely stop caring what others think once and for all? And no, it doesn't require pretending you're confident, repeating awkward affirmations, or moving to a deserted island. So, if you're ready to finally live without constantly worrying about everyone else's opinions, keep watching, because learning how to stop caring what others think is easy. So, why you care so much and why it's not your fault. First, let's set one thing straight. Caring about what other people think isn't your fault. In fact, it's completely natural. Humans evolved in groups. Being accepted by others literally meant survival. If you were disliked or rejected, you'd probably end up alone, facing lions or harsh winters without the group to protect you. But here's the problem. We don't live in caves anymore, and there aren't any lions around the corner. Yet our brains are still stuck in the Stone Age, wired to believe social rejection is a life or death scenario. This means your anxiety about what your coworkers, classmates, or random people on Instagram think about you isn't actually about them. It's just your brain trying desperately to protect you from imaginary danger. And that understanding is the first step to freedom, because once you know your brain's just overreacting, it's way easier to hit the mute button on those fears. So how do you actually do that? The spotlight effect. No one really cares. Here's the harsh but freeing truth. Nobody cares about you as much as you think they do. You know that awkward moment from years ago that's still stuck in your head, playing over and over again at 2 a.m.? Yeah, nobody else remembers it. They're too busy obsessing over their own awkward moments. This is called the spotlight effect, and it's backed by science. Researchers found that people consistently overestimate how much others notice their mistakes, appearance, or behavior. In reality, everyone else is walking around with their own internal spotlight, too busy worrying about themselves to pay attention to you. Think of it like this. You're worried everyone noticed that tiny stain on your shirt, but they're just worried about their messy hair, their missed deadline, or their weird laugh. Once you realize this, you start to feel like a massive weight just got lifted off your shoulders. Because the truth is, most people aren't thinking about you at all, and that's incredibly freeing. But what about when people actually do judge you? How do you handle that? So let's understand judgment. It's not about you. Let's say someone does judge you. Maybe they criticize your choices, laugh at your dreams, or roll their eyes at your style. Your instinct might be to shrink, hide, or even change who you are to avoid their judgment. But here's what you need to remember. When someone judges you, it's almost never about you. It's about them. Think about it. Have you ever judged someone? Of course you have. We all do. And why do you do it? Usually it's because something about that person triggered an insecurity or discomfort inside yourself. Maybe they remind you of something you don't like about your own life. Maybe they're doing something you wish you had the courage to do. Or maybe you're just having a bad day, and projecting those negative feelings onto someone else is an easy escape. Once you realize judgment says more about the person doing the judging than about you, you stop taking it personally. Instead of shrinking away, you feel empathy, or at the very least, you stop caring so deeply. But how can you actually train yourself to think this way when you're face to face with criticism? Do the spotlight effect. Just think, no one's really watching you. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like everyone was staring at you? Maybe your hair wasn't perfect, your clothes felt a little off, or you stumbled over your words, and immediately you assumed everyone noticed, and even worse, cared deeply about your tiny mistake. But here's a reality check. No one actually cares as much as you think they do. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect, the feeling that you're constantly under a microscope, being judged and analyzed. But in reality, everyone is so wrapped up in their own insecurities, mistakes, and worries, they barely have the mental space to notice yours. Think about the last embarrassing thing someone else did. Do you vividly remember every detail, or have you mostly forgotten? Chances are you've barely thought about it since it happened. Well, guess what? Others treat your so-called embarrassing moments exactly the same way. When you truly grasp how little people actually pay attention to your mistakes, a weight lifts off your shoulders. You realize you're free to be yourself without the constant fear of judgment. But how can you make this mindset stick? Do the judge chair trick. Flip the script. Here's a trick that rewires how you think about people's opinions instantly. Imagine you're sitting in a giant courtroom. In front of you, there's a judge's chair. For years, you've unknowingly placed your parents there, or your classmates, or some random person from Instagram. Every decision you make, every risk you avoid, every outfit you second guess, it's all because you're afraid of how the person in that judge's chair will react. But what if I told you you get to choose who sits in that chair? In fact, most of the time, no one has the right to sit there but you. Try this. Next time you're about to do something and you hesitate, pause and ask yourself, whose voice is in my head right now? And why do they get to decide how I live? Then mentally pull them out of the chair, toss them, replace them with someone who actually supports you. Or better yet, leave the chair empty. You don't need a judge at all. This simple visualization rewires your internal response to fear of judgment. It reminds you that most opinions only matter if you allow them to. And once you've reclaimed control of that judge's chair, you're finally free to stop shrinking and start growing. So now the question is, how do you build a strong identity that doesn't get shaken by every opinion that comes your way? So how to actually build an identity that can't be shaken? Here's the thing. If you don't know who you are, the world will decide for you. And guess what? The world's version of you is based on fragments. A 5-second clip, a misunderstood message, a bad photo, that one awkward moment in high school. But your real identity, that comes from doing hard things repeatedly, from keeping promises to yourself, from knowing deep down that you're becoming the person you respect. So how do you build that unshakable identity? Not with fake confidence, not with quotes taped to your mirror, but with reps. Say no to things that don't align with you. Do something scary and don't tell anyone about it. Stop performing and just be. Every time you choose your values over approval, your identity gets stronger. And every time you act in alignment with the person you want to be, you stop needing people to clap for you. You don't just stop caring what others think. You start living as if you're the one worth listening to. Now that's real freedom. Here's what they never tell you. Most people are too busy worrying about what you think of them to actually be thinking about you. Seriously, you spend hours stressing about a comment, a glance, a judgment, while that person already forgot you exist and moved on to their next insecurity. And one day, when you're older, you'll look back and realize you spent so much time trying to impress people who weren't even paying attention. So here's the truth. When you stop caring what others think, you don't become selfish. You become free. Free to say what you mean. Free to wear what you like. Free to chase goals that matter to you, not to your parents, your friends, or strangers on the internet. And maybe that freedom makes you look weird, or different, or alone. But I promise you, that kind of freedom is where your real life finally begins. So ask yourself right now, if nobody cared, what would you do differently? Go do that. And maybe you'll never be able to fully erase the voices in your head, but you can choose to stop listening. You can choose to live like they were never there at all, because you were never supposed to fit in. You were supposed to stand out. One subscribe helps fund the next idea. So subscribe Simvek's YouTube channel, not for me, but for you.